Welcome to Civ 6 Stories, where we explore alternatives to history through the lens of the world's most addictive video game. Games are played on Deity, no challenges. Generally, I don't use mods or game modes except for Super Tax Oceans. A great game is epic and tells a story. It has a history, all condensed down into 20 minutes. Along the way, you can learn tips and tricks on how to be a better Civ player, as well as strategies on how to play specific civilizations. After winning as every leader on Deity, I decided that for new games I would try to up the ante and move away from my usual standard-sized continents maps and began playing on huge maps, filling as many AI slots as the game would allow to increase the layers of political complexity involved in each game. For this particular game, with a random leader selected, I played as Robert the Bruce of Scotland.
It's shite being Scottish! But the lowest of the low! The scum of the fucking earth! The most wretched, miserable, servile, pathetic trash that was ever shot into civilization!
It was pretty clear from our spawn location that we were going to start close to a wonder, and sure enough, we earned the boost for settling next to Byzatines. A good start. In 3880 BC, we were the first to meet Cardiff. In 3720 BC, we met Pachacuti of the Inca. In 3600 BC, we met Suleiman Muhtasham of the Ottomans. In 3360, we became the first to meet Geneva. In 2920 BC, Scotland founded its second city, Dundee, on the western edge of Byzatines. In 2680 BC, hoping to snag a settler from the Inca, we declared war on Pachacuti. In 2640 BC, we chose God of the Sea as our pantheon. In 2240 BC, though we were unable to snag that settler, as suzerain of Cardiff, we levied the city-state's troops to help us in the war effort against the Inca. Besides controlling the lost city of gold, we noticed that, with the Ottomans and Inca already encroaching into the area we had already scouted, there was little area for us to settle and most of it was desert. After discovering bronze working, the disputed area surrounding Cardiff and the Hamp Atu volcano would prove to be of enormous importance as one of the region's only sources of iron was discovered there. In 2040 BC, at the start of the classical era, we discovered political philosophy and chose oligarchy as our tier 1 government. We also chose free inquiry as our classical era dedication. By 1680 BC, Incan defenses by the Hot Gates between Trabzon and Cardiff had worn down Scottish forces. There was no way through. We came away with little to show from the peace deal. By 1640, Ottoman settlers threatened to occupy more land near the frontier of what we had hoped to be Scotland. Turkey would become the new enemy. If we were going to have a country, even in the desert, we needed to halt the northern expansion of our neighbors. In 1520 BC, we met Teddy Roosevelt of America. By 1440 BC, Scotland had issues. A nearby barbarian encampment was spitting out swordsmen. We had only 2 cities, and we needed to do something about the swelling borders of our neighbors. Seeing potential slaves who had crossed the desert, we decided to strike upon the Ottomans, an aggressive neighbor who had recently captured the city-state of Mohenjo-Daro. In 1320 BC, Scotland founded its third city, Ayr. After 200 years of battle in the desert, Scottish forces had pushed back both the barbarian horde and the Ottomans back toward the southern hills. We then began our march toward the city of Trabzon. By 1040 BC, mercenaries from Cardiff had fulfilled their duty and left the field of battle. By 1000 BC, at long last we dispersed the dreaded barbarian encampment that had been standing in our way of further expansion. In 975 BC, to keep the pressure on the Ottomans, and without a source of iron, we levied Cardiff's troops a second time. In 950 BC, we met Theodora of Byzantium. In 900 BC, Scotland was able to recruit the great general Trong Trak. By 875 BC, a Scottish rabble had surrounded Trabzon. In 850 BC, Scottish horsemen ran down more Turkish settlers who would become good Scots one day. We needed iron, and our old enemy Pachacuti offered us some in exchange for horses, of which we had plenty, so we accepted. In 800 BC, during the Scottish assault on Trabzon, a Turkish knight reached the city's defense. In 725 BC, Turkish slaves founded the Scottish city of Haddington by the coast. By 675 BC, Turkish crossbowmen came to defend Trabzon. For the medieval era, we chose the free inquiry dedication. In 650 BC, under the weight of the hordes of Scottish forces, the Turkish city of Trabzon finally fell and was then razed to the ground. It had cost many lives, but the war against the Ottomans to control the desert had been a success, and we accepted a profitable peace deal. Scotland had done very little that was noteworthy in the ancient and classical eras, but it saved a lot of money. Now, from their savings, they were able to purchase 2 settlers. It was time to secure iron. In 525 BC, Scotland founded the city of Roxburgh. With their troops ready to fight again, in 500 BC we declared war against Pachacuti and the Inca for a second time, with the city of Antahuayla as their main target. Supported with a battering ram, Scottish forces took the city in 425 BC. Doing so meant that Scottish settlers could now found the desert city of Skona, which would work the nearby source of iron. Byzantium attacked the Incan capital, Cusco, from the south and brought down its city walls. By 250 BC, Scotland had lost control of Antahuayla. At the end of that year, mercenaries from Cardiff quit the battle. In 175 BC, answering the call to free Mohenjo-Daro from the Ottomans, we met Ba Tru of Vietnam, Queen Victoria of England, and Pericles of Greece. In 150 BC, although we had lost nearly all of our troops in the process, Scottish forces captured the Incan capital city of Cusco. In 100 BC, Scottish settlers founded the desert city of Dumbarton. Pretty normal on Deity, but as we were trying to press our loyalty in the region, desperate to hold Incan cities that were key to vital resources, barbarians with superior weaponry ignored the nearby Ottomans and attacked Skona, our only city with access to iron. By 1 AD, Antahuayla became Incan again, and Cusco flipped to free cities. That same year, Incan slaves, captured during the siege of Cusco, founded the Scottish city of Aberdeen. In 25 AD, after our discovery of divine right, Scotland was able to choose a Tier 2 government and became a monarchy. We had penetrated deep into Incan territory, but had lost to loyalty pressure all the cities we had captured. It was time to retreat from the region, and we accepted a profitable peace deal from Pachacuti. In 200 AD, for a third time, we levied troops from the city-state of Cardiff. In 250 AD, we dispersed the barbarian encampment that seemed to want nothing to do with the Ottomans, but loved invading Scotland. By 300 AD, Cusco was restored as the Incan capital. Our first act at the start of the Renaissance was to establish a military alliance with Teddy of America. We entered the Renaissance in a golden age and chose the monumentality, dedication. As we were still at war with the Ottomans, rather than move on the world's objective to free Mohenjo-Daro, we took the opportunity to invade the Turkish allied city-state of Geneva and expand our borders. In 520 AD, the Ottomans lost suzerainty of Geneva. It was almost ours, so we declared war on the city-state. In 540 AD, we captured the city. By 700 AD, I figured that Cardiff, with its strategic position at the edge of the Incan Empire, was going to be more useful as part of Scotland than as a vassal. I expended their levied troops by attacking Mohenjo-Daro so that, when it was time, they would have no troops left to defend the city. In 740 AD, we declared war on Cardiff. 20 years later, we took the city. We now had reliable sources of iron and niter, along with old scores to settle with the Inca. In 900 AD, with our forces amassed on the border of the city of Chan Chan, we declared war. In 980 AD, Scottish forces captured Chan Chan. In 1020 AD, our sailing ships crossed the Pacific Ocean and met the first of our cross-continental rivals, Simon Bolivar of Gran, Colombia. In 1040 AD, we met Gilgamesh of Sumer. 10 years later, we met Tokugawa of Japan and Amanator of Nubia. In 1070 AD, we built our first golf course, showing off our unique culture to the world. In that same year, we met Lady Sixsky of the Maya. And 10 years after that, we met Christina of Sweden. We entered the industrial era in a dark age and chose the reform the coinage dedication. In 1090 AD, after discovering the Galapagos Islands, we met Tomaris of Scythia. In 1100 AD, we met Ambiorix of Gaul. In 1130 AD, we met Sundiata Keita of the Mali. 10 years later, Scotland once again captured Antahuayla, and, mired in a dark age and with little hope of holding it, razed the city to the ground. By 1170 AD, we had lost control of Chan Chan. In 1210 AD, Scotland became the first civilization to circumnavigate the globe. Also that year, in order to earn the inspiration for nationalism, we declared a protectorate war against Victoria and the English.
Some people hate the English, I don't. They're just wankers. We, on the other hand, are colonised by wankers. Can't even find a decent culture to be colonised by.
When the Inca brought cavalry to our cities in 1230, as we were preoccupied with other things, we accepted a peace deal to fend them off for a while. When our buddy Teddy came to us with the offer of a joint war against the Vietnamese, in order to keep up relations, we accepted. Hoping to pillage resources off the coast of the New World, we declared a formal war against Nubia in 1250. In 1260 AD, we met Jayavarman VII of the Khmer. In 1270 AD, Scotland recaptured Chan Chan. In 1300 AD, the Ottomans founded the city of Edirne upon the ruins of Antahuayla in a clear provocation. In 1310 AD, once again we lost control of Chan Chan. And in 1340 AD, the Inca recaptured the city. In order to retake Chan Chan and control the area around the sacred Hamp Atu volcano, it meant declaring war once again on Pachacuti. In 1410 AD, Scotland recaptured Chan Chan. Also that year, Scotland founded the colony of Wigtown in South America across the Bay of Corn. We were no friend to the Greeks, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So when Suleiman invaded Greece, we united with America and Vietnam against the Turks. We could use this as a pretext to capturing Turkish cities along our border, beginning with Edirne. In 1470 AD, we lost Chan Chan again. For the modern era, no longer in a dark age, we chose to reform the coinage dedication. Right away, we recaptured Chan Chan, hopeful that now we could keep it. In 1555, with war raging with the Ottoman Empire, our allied city-state of Akkad was destroyed. In 1570, the Ottomans lost control of Edirne, and our forces in the vicinity captured the city moments later. With Edirne now part of Scotland, instead of bringing aid to our allies in the war against the Ottomans, we marched our forces toward Cusco. Although the military emergency against the Ottomans failed, we trusted that our involvement mitigated the impact of their invasion into Greece. We achieved our objective and took Edirne, which allowed us to invade deeper into Incan territory. In 1630 AD, Scotland captured the Incan capital city of Cusco for the second time in 1500 years. Simón Bolívar won the World's Fair competition. We didn't even place in the top 10. We were fourth from bottom, ahead of only Sweden, the Inca, and England. Well, at least we were ahead of England. That softens the blow. But by 1645, Scotland had a long way to go to getting a foothold on winning this game.
It's a shite state of affairs to be in, Tommy, and all the fresh air in the world won't make any fucking difference!
The Inca made their last stand defending the city of Huánuco. Scottish forces captured the city in 1660 AD, ending the game for Pachacuti. It wasn't until 1680 that we built our first Highlander unit. They're pretty useless, but hey, kilts and shit. With one turn of the modern era remaining, in order to ensure an atomic era golden age, we built a national park, the world's first. And we spent faith to recruit the great admiral Franz von Hipper. We had to dump some faith that might have been better served in other areas, but we achieved our objective. So, for the atomic era in a golden age, we chose the heartbeat of steam dedication. In 1695, Jayavarman, our ally, came to us with an odd deal involving an exchange of cultural artifacts for some of our excess strategic resources. But it meant declaring war on Sundiata Keita. Perhaps there were more riches to pillage, so we accepted. By 1705, we were doing fine in the resources category, and our buddies figured out that we didn't mind selling them. Gilgamesh came to us offering more cultural artifacts and plenty of gold, and so we accepted their offer. Not like we were pushing for a culture of victory. No. In 1750, Jayavarman came to us again offering cultural treasures. The negotiations went on longer this time, but once again, we had an accord. We launched shells at Ankara for over 50 years. Vietnam had been busy keeping Turkish forces occupied in the south. By 1760, we'd beat down Ankara enough that our troops were able to capture the city. We had had our eye on Sergei Korolev for a while, so it was satisfying when, in 1765, Scotland was able to recruit his talents. By 1770, when, through our alliances, we were able to reveal the entire map, there were only 4 city-states left in the game, of which one, Wolin, we controlled. That's not a lot. The AI often is no friend to the city-states, and I often say that a city-state is better as part of your empire outright than just working for it. In 1775, with our discovery of class struggle, we adopted a Tier 3 government and became communists. Suleiman came to us asking for peace, but Turkey was our old enemy. Our borders had always been insecure. They captured Mohenjo-Daro and betrayed Greece. With Vietnam fighting alongside us, we could end their reign of tyranny forever. In 1818, after a 50-year siege, we captured their capital city, Istanbul. Staring down the barrel of a potential information era dark age, we went to great lengths to reform their terrain around Paititi so we could build a national park for some extra era score. And moments later, in 1830, we built the Statue of Liberty in our capital city of Stirling. Closer to staving off a dark age, but not quite there. In 1834, our civilization took flight for the first time, and that was enough to get us over the line with 2 turns to spare. By the start of the information era, I felt fairly certain there was no way I was going to win this game.
No way I'm going to win this.
We chose Bodyguard of Lies as our information era dedication, hoping to use espionage to catch up to our rivals scientifically and thwart their plans of colonizing space. In 1842, continuing our invasion of Turkey, Scottish forces captured Bursa. In 1846, just to make sure we wouldn't miss out on the opportunity, we ponied up some extra faith to recruit the services of Werner von Braun. We were behind by every measure, but weren't going to let this game just slip away without a fight. It was about then that we began receiving information that at least the Mali were kicking about on the moon. By 1848, our brothers in arms Vietnam conquered our only vassal city-state, Wolin. In 1856, Scottish forces liberated Mohenjo-Daro from the Ottomans, who had controlled the city for over 3,000 years and made it part of Scotland. In 1858, we earned no rewards from the World Games, with Lady Six Sky and the Maya taking top prize. By 1860, with the Ottoman Empire crumbling, Sivas flipped to free cities. When the last Turkish stronghold of Quang Tri flipped to free cities, Suleiman and the Ottomans were out of the game. By 1862, we figured that our only hope for a victory was through space. But we were way back in 11th of the 15 remaining civs. We had a lot of ground to make up and little time to do it. That same year, with slaves from the Ottoman Empire, we founded the city of Kulin on possibly the last available unoccupied tile on a small island way up north in the tundra, our very own Orkney Island. In 1864, Scottish forces captured the free city of Sivas. And that same year, we received news that the Vietnamese had reached Mars. The English were in a bad way by 1870. That never upsets us because Liverpool was wiped off the map by somebody. Greece, I think. The history is unclear. 2 years later, Scottish forces captured the free city of Quang Tri, and though we fought alongside Vietnam, we did not love them, and so, because doing so was consequence-free, we razed their former city to the ground. We had never really been friendly with the Byzantines. With the game drawing to a close and needing to make a push for space, it was time to stir the pot and disrupt the world order, because as things stood, we weren't going to win. We had hoped to enlist a little help from our allies who were unwilling, so in 1880, we declared a war of territorial expansion against Theodora. Our hopes of making headway in the game through espionage were dashed when our fourth spy in a row was caught without completing their mission.
It's 4 in a row.
Bless God, smart materials showed up early in the future era tech tree. In 1886, Scotland captured the Byzantine city of Edessa. In 1890, Scotland launched its Earth satellite. In 1892, Scottish forces captured Antioch. In 1896, they captured Dyrrhachium. In 1900, Scotland went to the moon. That same year, we captured the Byzantine capital city of Constantinople. In 1901, after our discovery of optimization imperative, we chose our Tier 4 government and became a synthetic technocracy, building our government policies around a strategy that led to space. Politics run deep with this many civilizations involved in the game, as a Manator went to the trouble to liberate Armagh, though I cannot imagine why. In 1903, Scotland established a colony on Mars. That same year, we captured the city of Ankara. And moments later, we used the talents of Sergei Korolev to send off our exoplanet expedition. In 13 years, we went from Earthbound to sending a rocket to the far reaches of space. In the 50 years since our last check-in, we vaulted from 11th to 2nd in science. But we still trailed Nubia and had not yet researched off-world mission. In 1905, Scotland built the Venetian arsenal in the city of Geneva. Not sure what good that's going to do at this point, but good old Scotland was at least trying to show off that they could be some sort of glorious empire. That same year, Scottish forces hopped across the Gulf of Izmir and captured the city of Amasya. In 1906, we captured Trebizond. We entered the information era in a golden age, and desperate for any kind of help to research off-world mission and get to space, for perhaps the first time in my life, I chose the Sky and Stars dedication. Only 2 Eurekas, but it's what Scotland needed. In 1909, we captured Cherson. In 1910, we captured Adrianople, eliminating Theodora and Byzantium from the game. To be this late in the game and be generating less than 1,000 science and or less than 1,000 culture per turn? Yikes! By 1912, Nubia's spacecraft was still traveling at just 1 light year per turn, but damn, they were getting close. We had been at war with Nubia for a while and just too preoccupied with conflicts on the home continent to do anything about it. But they were top dog and the hour was nigh. By 1914, we began our assault on the city of Vilnius. In 1917, we captured the city. In 1918, we finally discovered off-world mission. We had a stockpile of idle builders just for this very scenario. We set up laser stations in every city that we could. In 1919, we captured the Nubian city of Napata. In 1920, we built 4 laser stations. In 1921, for no real reason, we spent our saved envoys to become suzerain of Ayutthaya, the one independent city-state remaining in the game. In 1922, Scotland built 2 more laser stations. In 1923, we built 4 more. Also in 1923, we captured the Nubian city of El Kuru. Our spacecraft was now traveling at 11 light years per turn.
Oh my god. It's gonna be so close. Jesus Christ.
By the start of 1924, there were still no reports of a Nubian exoplanet arrival. Nubia's spacecraft was still traveling at just 1 light year per turn. We were scheduled to arrive at our destination next year. We trusted that slow and steady would not win the race and that the hare would overtake the tortoise. And then, left with reports of a meaningless Arctic hurricane, our spacecraft arrived at the far reaches of space. In the year of our Lord 1925, rebels of Scotland ventured into the unknown. They fought like warrior poets and won their freedom. So, what did I learn? Our spawn location gave us a great natural wonder to work with, but surrounded by mostly desert and closed off from expansion by hilly terrain controlled by our rivals, we had little else. They say that God doesn't give with both hands. Our early eras were filled with conflict and strife as we struggled to procure important strategic resources and prevent our rivals from controlling territory we hoped would be ours. We won some battles, but lost many soldiers along the way and could not control conquered cities for lack of loyalty. The territory of the Inca and the Ottomans was protected by natural barriers that halted our invasions. But by the Renaissance, we had a country to rival any other, which felt like an accomplishment. Disputes around the Hamp Atu volcano south of Cardiff and the shared border between Scotland, the Inca, and Turkey shaped the entire world and the outcome of the game. Fighting for this small parcel of land in ancient times is what helped us to stay relevant enough to finally achieve victory. Nubia never grew beyond 10 cities. They were a small, tightly knit empire that avoided much of the strife on their continent. It's hard for me to describe this history as having an old and a new world since I never conquered my own continent and only made a cross-continental invasion to disrupt Nubia. Vietnam played an interesting role in my race to victory. In the 13th century, America pulled us into a war with them, but it was our shared hatred of the Turks that ended whatever kind of conflict might have existed between us. We never liked each other, but we fought against the Turks and the Byzantines together, of which we were the biggest beneficiaries. They also kinda did most of the dirty work, destroying the English, which is usually our job, but not having to fight a war of spite. It meant that we could focus on the chief goal of winning the game by any means necessary, not just damaging the old enemy. Concerning Scotland and their unique abilities, the golf course is kinda useless. It's fine for the amenities since Scots thrive on being happy, which is ironic because typically they're all bloody miserable on account of the shite weather, but the tile yields are terrible, and a lot of the time I think to myself that I'd rather just have a farm there. I built a Highlander for the era score. I formed an army, but they were one-shotted by an enemy city center. They are a pretty awful unique unit. Declaring a war of liberation is like, why? Why is that a special thing for Scotland? It's just so dang hard to engineer that it's kind of a wasted ability. That being said, this game came right down to the wire, and it's really satisfying for a game to be in doubt right up until the very end, but not have to suffer the ignominy of defeat. I heaved a huge sigh of relief after pulling this one out, and even though Scotland barely approaches being a B-tier civ, although it is shite being Scottish, they are not the lowest of the low. I did, after all, build an empire that would stand the test of time. So thanks for watching, and remember to keep making your own civilization stories, your own amazing paths through history, and I'll see you next time.